morning, good afternoon, and good evening. My name is Sir Meerkat, and welcome back to the Moto Meerkat channel. So when I say Tottenham Hotspur, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Maybe it's Gareth Bale absolutely sending one into the corner of the goal. Or what about Craig Dolby taking a brilliant win at Silverstone? Wait, you don't think of Craig Dolby? Yes, that's right. Tottenham Hotspur, the Premier League football team, also had a racing team at one point, along with some other football clubs, such as Galatasaray, AC Milan, and FC Porto. It was all part of this crazy championship called SuperLeague Formula, and I'll be recounting the story today. It was basically, as I say, a completely wacky championship, which will eventually fail after only 4 seasons. But why exactly did it flop? Let's find out. Now, it's not a completely insane idea to think that the world of football and the world of motorsport could combine in some way. They both have huge audiences and are both billion-dollar industries, with companies always looking to make more money. And this amalgamation of the two sports had been seen before, such as Newcastle United's sponsorship of a Lister car in the 1996 Le Mans 24 Hours, which I've got to say, looks really, really nice. Or another one you might have heard a bit more about, what about Chelsea sponsoring the Sauber Formula 1 team for the 2012 season, one that's not quite as good to look at, I can't lie. But a series where all of the teams competing were in fact football clubs was certainly a new idea to the motor racing world. To be fair though, when I say that the racing teams were football clubs, it's kind of a bit of a fib. For example, the Borussia Dortmund and Beijing Goen teams were both run by Zakspeed, a German race team who actually had a less than stellar F1 career between 1985 and 1989. But this whole concept of merging the two sports actually started way back in the early 2000s. A series was agreed upon and backed by the FIA, with the cars used being identical Judd V10 powered Dalaras. However, that series idea would collapse in 2003 due to a lack of financing and generally a lack of interest from the football teams. However, a man named Robin Webb decided to persevere with this concept and finally created SuperLeague Formula for its inaugural season in 2008. Panos were employed to build the cars, implementing a 750 brake horsepower V12 engine into the back of the chassis, which sounds absolutely incredible, might I add. Have a listen to this. Oh, that sounds unbelievable. I wish more cars sounded like that today. However, the actual pace of those Panos race cars weren't that great. The fastest Super League lap time at the Nürburgring Grand Prix circuit was a 1 minute 41, but Takuma Sato in a Formula 1 car in 2004 clocked a 1 minute 27 at the same circuit. So what's that, like 14 seconds a lap off at quite a small circuit? That's quite a difference. So the cars maybe weren't the quickest, but they sounded brilliant, and they made for some great racing, as it was indeed a spec series. So for season 1, there were 6 rounds put forward to the drivers, each round having 2 45-minute races, with the first grid of the first race being decided by a qualifying session, and then the second grid for the second race being decided from the results of the first race, but instead put in reverse. An idea that's actually kind of making a resurgence at the moment in Formula 1, something we might see in the future. So there you go, Super League Formula clearly very much ahead of their time. And in 2008, the championship had 18 football teams completing, with David Rijon representing Beijing Guan eventually taking the title after wins at Donington Park, Zolder and Vallelunga, receiving $1 million of prize money for his troubles. Fair play, David. Now, Super League Formula actually had the biggest prize pool in motorsport at the time, with opportunities to win cash throughout the race weekend, such as €5,000 for race 1 pole position, or €3,000, €2,000 and €1,000 respectively unexpectedly for the top 3 podium positions in either of the 2 races. This injection of money into the series came thanks to the series' title sponsor, Sonangol, an Angolan oil company, who I'm sure were just as legitimate as Bad Santa's God Juice Company. However, even with all this money going around, not all of the football clubs were actually paid for their brands to be used in the series. Obviously, the top teams, such as Liverpool and AC Milan, actually receive around €1 million for the season for their inclusion of sort of the club badge and things like that. However, lower teams such as Anderlecht were not paid a penny, despite their serious involvement in the series. Craig Dolby, who I mentioned earlier driving for Tottenham, actually drove for Anderlecht to a 6th place finish in the championship in that inaugural season in 2008. And he said, "In my first year at Anderlecht, I was there at the ground, in the box, meeting the chairman every week, taking the mechanics to the matches, and they took it very seriously. They were a small club mixing with big name clubs, and it was a very big deal for them." So they clearly were putting a lot into it, but to be fair, not only did some of these teams receive prize money, the clubs would also receive advertisement on the television, allowing them to build an even wider fan base, with the series boasting over 6 million viewers per race. That's pretty solid. For the 2009 season, the series would actually add a new aspect entirely, the Super Final. This was the 3rd race, kind of the weekend, a 5-lap dash between the top 6 drivers to decide a sort of weekend winner and to more evenly distribute the prize money. And by the end of the 2009 season, it would be Adrian Valles for Liverpool FC who took the title. I can't do a Scouse accent, oh my god.
Who are you laughing at? Who are you laughing at? Don't fucking laugh at me. You've just crashed into me.
During that season, Liverpool only actually won 1 race at Magny Court, with the whole championship being super tight on points. This was mainly due to the SuperLeague Formula's crazy point system, with the top 22 drivers, yes, 22 drivers receive points at every race, falling from 50 points for 1st position, 45 for 2nd, all the way down to 1 for 22nd place. Do you reckon they should implement such a scoring system in Formula 1? Let me know in the comments down below. But moving on to 2010, we would see the biggest switch up in the series to date. SuperLeague Formula would actually sort of engulf the dying A1GP series, which meant that we saw the introduction of teams such as Team China, who were racing under nationalities, alongside the teams that were already racing under football clubs. Now, if you haven't seen my video where I detail the downfall of A1GP and the craziness of that series, then make sure you click the pop-out banner in the top right corner. I always forget which one it is, but make sure you click it because it's a great video and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But this change ultimately didn't really affect the championship too much, and it continued to rise up in its notoriety in motorsport, with people seriously beginning to take note of the series. The series even had a sim racing game built around it in 2010 titled SuperLeague Formula 2009 The Game. Come on, were you expecting anything more creative than that? Now, I haven't actually played the game myself. It was a little bit of time ago, and at that time I definitely hadn't heard of SuperLeague Formula. But to be fair to the developers, have a look at the footage I'm showing on screen now. It looks really, really clean. Now, I know you can't hear the sound, but I'll whack that up for just a second. And you can hear that the sound is great, really realistic. The graphics look super sharp, especially when you consider the time period it was out at. And the car sort of movements, how the car interacts with the circuit, looks really good and really realistic as well. I would say even it looks more similar to iRacing than it does to something like Forza. It looks really good. I'm really surprised by it. Look at this F1 2009 gameplay. It's blocks. The wheels are blocks. What?
What is that? What is that? What is that?
But anyway, back to actual real-life Super League Formula as we talk a bit more about the 2010 season. And to do so, I've drafted in a lovely bloke called Liam Talks Motorsport. Take it away, Liam.
Thanks for having me on, Meerkat. The 2010 season of the SuperLeague Formula series went to new heights, with the races being doubled. There was 23 football teams associated with the series, with 18 of them being different, as well as 46 drivers and 10 technical backers being associated with the teams. Notable drivers in the series included former F1 drivers Narain Karthikeyan and Sebastian Bourdais, but the two title contenders were neither of them, as Davide Rigon of Anderlecht and Craig Dolby of Spurs fought for the title until the final round, with Regon winning the title by just 2 points, taking his second title of the Super League Formula history, taking 5 victories along the way. Chris van der Drift finished just behind him in 4th in the championship, but suffered horrific injuries following an accident at Brands. He suffered a broken ankle, broken ribs, and 2 broken fingers, as well as a dislocated shoulder and a cracked shoulder blade. Van der Drift could have won the title, and he said afterwards he was just happy that he was alright and it was a racing incident. But anyway, I'll hand you back over into the trusted hands of Sir Meerkat. Thank you for having me on, mate.
Van der Drift's crash is a scary one. That was 210 G, that impact, the second highest G to happen in a crash that someone actually survived. Unbelievable. But thank you very much for that, Liam. If you haven't already subscribed to Liam Talks Motorsport, make sure you do so. I'll leave a link down in the description below. Now, after this seemingly very successful year in 2010, SuperLeague Formula would take some severe blows, and the series as a whole would never really recover. The 2-year deal with Senangon, that oil company, had expired, meaning that there was far less prize money that could be offered up to the participating teams and drivers. So a lot of the teams just decided not to participate, which is fair enough, I guess. Only 6 football teams would remain associated with this series, them being Anderlecht, Eindhoven, Bordeaux, Sparta Prague, Atletico Madrid, and Galatasaray. And all these teams now dropping out seem to be quite the red flag for the series, no pun intended, as after only 2 of the 9 proposed rounds, the series would be called off for good. So, after all that effort and all that money, the idea of combining motorsport and football just couldn't properly stay afloat. And no one has tried to do anything similar since, to be fair, but that doesn't mean that there isn't still time for a comeback. Would you like to see something similar in the future between motorsport and football? Let me know in the comments down below. But if you did enjoy today's video, be sure to drop a like on it down below. I do really appreciate that. And subscribe to the Moto Meerkat channel as well, so you don't miss any of my future motorsport content. But otherwise, that's all from me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see all of you Meerkats later. Goodbye, guys.